Welcome to Walailak University Global Program. I'm Surin, Vice-President for Global Engagement. As usual, this program is about disseminating information about Walailak University research and international activities, academic and research activities. We invite guests who visit Walailak University for academic purposes. With us today are representatives from James Cook University, Queensland, Australia. With me, Dr. Nigel Chang, a senior academic from James Cook University, and Cole Brown, who is a final year student at the College of Social Sciences. So thank you very much for joining me today. Dr. Nigel Chang is with students, a group of students visiting Walailak University as part of the Colombo plan supported by the Australian government. Could you, first of all, Dr. Nigel, say a little bit about the plan that brings students to Thailand?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting us here. So the new Colombo plan is something that's run by the Australian government, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and it's an initiative which is aimed at getting students, university students from Australia out into the Asia and Pacific region to develop networks and connections across this whole area, to really help Australia understand its neighbours better and to have these one-on-one connections being developed across the whole region. So it's a really important project for Australia and hopefully for the whole Asia-Pacific region.
So how many students government of Australia supports to travel to the Asia-Pacific countries a year?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure.
Roughly.
But I think there must be, we'll certainly say at James Cook University there would be something like 100 students a year. Mm-hmm. So across many universities, there'd be several thousand.
That's quite a lot. Yeah. So it's a huge program, well supported by the Australian government.
Yes.
Wanting to students to experience other countries in the region. So Cole, you are part of the group. So how do you find it?
Thank you. Well, look, I'm a politics and international relations major. So traveling with the archaeology team is a little bit different for me. I've been on 2 new Colombo plan trips now, both to Thailand, and I love it. I wouldn't have come back a second time if I didn't love it. Mm-hmm. It's eye-opening. As an international relations major, I have studied lots of theory at home, and I've learnt a lot from my professors. But I knew that there would be a large gap in my knowledge and my understanding if I never left home, if I never explored the Pacific, the Asia Pacific.
Mm-hmm. So this is an opportunity to see with your very own eyes about other countries, other people, other society, how they live, how they conduct their daily lives and all of that. So would you think this help enrich your professional career, professional development in the future?
Without a doubt. Looking back on the student and the person I was a year and a half ago, there's drastic change, massive change. I'll never be the same student I was. For my future, I always knew that my future would be in the Asia Pacific, such an important region. But to walk in the shoes of our neighbours and, as Nigel said, experience the region, I can place myself personally and my career, my future career in the region a lot better.
So how many students are with you this time, Dr. Nigel?
So on this trip I've got 11 students from James Cook University. Yeah, and as across several of them are in my study area, which is archaeology, but we have like Cole in political science, students in education, social work as well, so a variety of different majors. But mostly my archaeology students.
Right, archaeology, right.
Yeah, and the project isn't all about archaeology, but it's just, I know when I was a student and I had the chance to travel to Thailand for archaeology project, I know the effect that had on me and my career and my choices going forward, so I like to make the same opportunity available for our new students.
Right. So I've been here, you have been here, your students have been here now in Nakhon Si Thammarat and Thasala, at Walailak University, and have been involved in a number of activities. So today would be a week now, right?
Yeah, just over a week.
Or
yes,
a week. And what sort of activities that you've been involved in?
It's been excellent. They've been the students have been learning Thai language, working very hard at trying to learn some Thai language, building on a little bit that they learnt before they came. So that's been very helpful, and working closely with the WU students. So that's important too. That while there's not a physical sort of exchange in some ways, we want to make sure that our students and the local students here are working closely together. And then we've done some amazing activities, visiting the village just out of town here that's supported by WU, the fishing village, and doing the mudding experience, sailing out into the ocean, so that was fantastic. And we've been visiting a number of really great archaeology sites while I've been here, so that's always good for me too. And just this last weekend.
Cool. Can you reflect on some of the activities that you've been involved in? You've been involved in Thai language lessons. I believe your students were brought to view Thai boxing or have a bit of a try at Thai boxing and Thai dancing and all of that. Can you reflect on some of the...
Well, yeah, we look a lot more than view the Thai boxing. The Muay Thai was a very hands-on experience, especially even for a Jan Nigel here. I think among language learning and cultural exchange, like dance, traditional Thai dance, we've been doing other things, of course, archaeological sites, but also visiting villages such as Ban Liam for mangrove planting. We were looking into the tourism aspects and tourism economy in Krabi this weekend. So we did some kayaking up there, along with visiting lots of museums and seeing how tourism economy, how the massive role it plays in southern Thai economics.
And you have met Thai students as well from different departments at Walailak University. How do you feel about, I'm just curious about, I know it's a very short time to make any probably informative comments, but what is your impression of Thai students whom you have met even briefly?
It's been lovely. As I said, this is my second time in Thailand. The first time I came, I forged some very close relationships with students, and we've met multiple times over the years. At Walailak University, the atmosphere has been incredible. It's been welcoming. I think in your welcome speech with us, you spoke on friendship and internationalization, and I think the underpinning experience is friendship. Networking amongst not only the Australian students in our team, but with the Walailak University students and the Walailak University academic and management team as well. We've forged incredible relationships, I think.
You would like to add to that?
No, it's been fantastic. I've done a number of different projects in Laos and in Thailand here as well, and this is definitely one of the best ones, one of the most interesting ones. And of course, with Ajahn Surin here, who my past colleague from JCU, that's been a fantastic.
I'm very familiar.
Continuing that relationship has been great.
With School University.
Yeah.
I observed Dr. Nigel this morning that you've been working students very hard to get them to do research and write up things. They're pretty concentrating on their work. And what exactly do they have to come up with in this project?
Well, my ideas have changed a little bit from time to time, but essentially what they're looking at is some key similarities and differences, some comparisons between Australia and Thailand, and particularly between Nakhon Si Thammarat and North Queensland in Australia. So these
which both are in tropical areas.
Both in tropical areas, both with the coast of the sea is a very important part of their region. So I'll let the students decide which sort of topics they want to explore, to try and get that contrast and comparison. So sort of try and reflect on the different experiences they've had and what they've really understood about Thailand. But another important part of these projects is for them to think about their own culture. So when they go home again, they might have another impression of where they've come from as well. So we'll see how that goes. As part of that too, initially I set this project up that they would develop some resources out of this research that could perhaps be used for English language study. That may be just a small effort this time, but hopefully if we come back again, we'll grow that side of things as well.
Yeah, excellent, because I'm very happy to hear that you get students to work on comparing between Thailand and Australia, particularly Nakhon Si Thammarat and Queensland,
Yes.
James Cook University in the state of Queensland, and both are in tropical areas, as mentioned. So to get that comparative perspectives is very important. So by understanding other people, you also understand yourself. So that's a pretty interesting way of getting students to work on. And
as an archaeologist, I want to see them go back in time and look at the history
and
as well.
archaeology.
But some of them, I don't think they're going to go very far back in time. But that's okay. We can work on that for
So
another
what
time.
exactly are you working on, Cole?
Well, so I'll be in between the groups tomorrow when we present. You'll be surprised, a couple of them are going quite far back.
Good.
But this was a particular point I noted, is that they're going far back, not just to please you, but to shape a perspective of the development of both of our regions. And that quite nicely frames the future that we might look at. So as a politics student, this is what I'm all about. And the relationships and the development that we've seen in the past, not just historical, but modern historical, shapes a future of friendship and a future of relations that is good.
And materials, research material that you're using for your project, are they enough in English on the Thai side?
It's a bit of a struggle. So I know a number of the groups have been struggling a little bit in reading a lot of the Thai academic papers. We have been getting a little bit of help from the staff as well as some of our friends. I know on a particular note, we've been messaging back and forth, sending screenshots here and there, trying to get some loose translations, which is working well enough. Our Thai has a long way to go.
Yeah, but at least, this is a very short time, but the fact that you've been trying to understand from the Thai point of view on things, on issues, it's very already a big learning curve, and it's a very important aspect of learning about other cultures. So that is something that would be quite rewarding. What are some of the key observations apart from just what we were mentioning? Are there anything else that kind of come to mind when you think about these trips of visiting Walailak University, Cole?
I think oddly enough, there's quite a stark similarity between Nakhon Si Thammarat and Townsville. When you think geospatial, political relations and development as well.
Townsville is a town, it's a city where James Cook University is located.
Indeed. So we have the way Townsville has developed and grown, particularly post-World War II, has been largely around the areas of trade and our port, as well as agricultural for the inland, but quite largely around our university. And Nakhon Si Thammarat, the region as well, seems to have very similar aspects. It's geospatially quite important in terms of military and trade, and historically, a long history of such things, and a very strong, a very large growing university. The students have been walking us through the town. We've been going out after hours and learning more about the culture and the town, the region, the city. It's shaping up to be quite a similar place, oddly enough.
Obviously, I want to take advantage of the fact that you are a student at James Cook University in Australia, a Western society, which might have different ways of, I guess there are a lot of similarities, but at the same time, there could be a lot of differences in terms of learning style, in terms of the ability to do things like, we talk a lot about teaching critical thinking, for example, at Walailak University. We have to pay a lot of it. We have to to devote a lot of time and efforts and energy and resources in trying to develop English proficiency for our Thai students and all of that. So I just like to ask Cole about whether, I mean, it's a short time for here to see much in terms of the teaching here, but can you tell us a little bit about how you study as a university student in Australia at James Cook University?
Yeah.
I mean, let's say a day in the life of a Thai student at James Cook University, let's put it that way.
That's a very good question.
I'd like to hear the answer too.
well. So I think for me, I work and I study as well. And so JCU has, recently I've been traveling a lot.
Work and study, that's very interesting.
Yes.
There are not many Thai students who work and study at the same time.
Indeed.
I mean, why is it is that a common thing in Australia? Like how many hours you work and then how many hours you spend studying?
I think probably bad question. Look, I've been working in hospitality for a while. I've been managing for quite a while. So I have been perhaps putting too much time into my work and not so much into my study. But I would probably work about 30 hours a week.
And, 30 hours a week?
Yes, yeah. Maybe the equivalent.
Of course, in Australia, it's very common for students to work at the same time to earn. It's very common to see students earning their money, their own money, not depending entirely on parents, whereas in Thailand, I have to say virtually 100% of students depend on their parents, 100%, virtually. So very few, maybe they work a little bit during summer, or maybe very small number of hours while they are doing their study for the normal semester. So that's, I mean, and I think people here in Thailand would not really understand exactly that situation. And Dr. Nigel can come in and help explain on this. But having been in Australia myself for a long time, and that's something very common, which is not very common here. So how do we explain this situation?
It's interesting too, because you see here that one of the most obvious things at the university here is just such a vibrant community that everybody's here, students here. You go to the lunch areas and there's hundreds of students eating, and people spending all day on the campus, things like that. Whereas in Australia, people tend to come to campus for their class, if they do come to their class, and then they go home again or they go off to work or whatever. So we don't have that same life on campus, and that's not the same at all universities in Australia, but it's certainly in our regional university it's like that. And I think it's a very different it's just a very different economic situation. So many students do live with their parents or stay home with their parents, but they also work at the same time because they to have the money to spend and do the things they want to do as well.
We also have so on campus accommodation, JCU has a number of colleges that you can stay at, but Walailak University has a significantly larger portion of students that live on campus. And I think in terms of student markets, which we've been to a couple, and student life on campus, that is a significant defining factor. And Australian universities as well, I think on our trip as well, a particular point that I'd like to point out is we have mature age students as well. Whereas Walailak University, the most general age for a student would be a high school leaver, around 19, 20 or so, early 20s. Our group is separated.
You actually go across a whole lot of ranges, because you've got students who've just come from high school, you've got students in their 20s, early 30s, and then we've got some students who are in their 50s and 60s. So that is definitely something that's quite common now in New Zealand, where I come from originally, and also in Australia and other parts of the Western world, I guess. The number of mature age students is very large. And it's a different way of thinking about university, I think. And even when we are running classes, you get such a different set of ideas and inputs, say, in a discussion group than if you had all 18, 19-year-olds.
At any one point, in any subject, what would be the percentage of mature age students, would you say?
It's now moving up to about 30%.
About 30%?
Yeah. And in some cases, there's the current terminology is NSLs, non-school leavers. Non-school leavers. So it's anybody who has left school, had any amount of time away in the workforce, and then come back to university. So it can be people from 25, 24, all the way up to retirement age, perhaps. So it's certainly around 30%, and in some cases it's even higher than that, 40 or even 50%.
And these mature age students, when they come to uni and do courses, are they doing it for a career change or for simply out of interest, would you say?
It's both. So we do have people who come for a career change, and then we do have a good amount of people who do it for interest, for their own personal development. But having said that, I even have students who have gone right through to PhD, again, because for their own personal development, and they might then get some work, but that wasn't necessarily their main motivation when they started. But they might go quite far through and study even just for their own interest. But we do certainly have, there's a PhD student at the moment now who was a young mother, I don't know, 10 years or so ago. We had an open day at the university, and she came over and asked me about archaeology, and she was just something she'd always thought about. And then she came and did her undergraduate degree, and now has gone all the way through to a PhD.
Just want to ask Cole about, because we try to here in Thailand, we try to so deliberately get students to think independently, to research, to write, to be able to research and then put information together in a articulate form of writing and all that. But it has been a bit problematic because often we find students do not have that sufficient skill, so you have to really work very hard to get them to do research and to put data or information together in a logical ways and all of that. So maybe both Dr. Nigel and Cole can comment on that for you from a teacher's point of view, and then Cole from a student's point of view. So how is that working out in Australia?
Might let Cole talk first about his personal experience, and then I can talk a bit about what I think.
I've had a distinctly lucky education. I benefited from some very dedicated, very overqualified high school teachers who worked a lot of overtime hours to educate me and send me a little bit further along the line. Having said that, though, I struggle massively with the process of writing academically. It takes me hours and hours of pondering over my work until I produce something reasonably decent, which Nigel will then mark me down on. I think in Thailand, with the Thai students I've worked with, I think I wouldn't be able to identify any lacking. I think in terms of potentially translation from Thai to English, there's grammatical hiccups that they approach, but that's a translation. That's a translation thing, Nigel.
Yeah, and look, I'd say we have similar, as you might remember from your time, we have similar issues in Australia as well. Students who struggle to sort of get really clear thoughts together and to write them down and to present and to develop their ideas well. But we have a whole range of students from the less skilled to the more skilled. I think as educators, the idea is we try to promote those skills, I think in the same way that you are here. So, and that's one of the things that brings students on these sorts of projects, hopefully kind of motivates them to do that little bit of extra work or to see a goal that they might be working towards perhaps more clearly. But yeah, I think I'm not sure, because when we work here in Thailand, we're working with people like your group here, international relations and international relations at other universities. And so those tend to be the people and the students that we work with who are the ones who have kind of been pushed a little bit more in that direction. So they are quite very capable students here. For me, it's about giving students questions and projects to work on, and then letting them, as much as possible, work out the details themselves and try to develop their own approaches. And we give them pointers along the way. But yeah, it can be an interesting process. Yeah, sometimes you want to know, you try to develop how strict the guidelines are you give students, and how much you open it up for them to use to bring their own ideas forward or their own approaches.
It's a lot about passion as well. I think you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I think if you're loving what you do and you're loving what you study, then you're going to read more.
That's right. Because one of the major problems we've been always discussed among lecturers is that it's very difficult. It's always difficult to get students to read.
Oh, totally.
And of course, when the materials that there's a bit out of their interest, and then it's even more difficult. Yeah, that's right. And so I like both of you to answer this question, because we are trying very hard to get students to go out to other countries, at least to neighboring countries in Southeast Asia. What would be some of the most important things most significant things that they can learn from going overseas, you would say? What are some of the couple of things that it's so crucial that without going overseas, they wouldn't learn them, and learning them is actually quite important for their career development?
So for me, I have a lot of students who come overseas who used to come on archaeology projects, but then also on these exchange projects. And for so many of them, they're actually quite terrified. They've never travelled overseas. JCU and Townsville was a very regional area. So many of our students have never even been out of the state, let alone out of the country. So just that ability to go somewhere else and realise that people are people everywhere. People come up and have the same issues and the same problems, and that you can make friends in another country. That's very, very important. And again, the other thing that as I said before, I think it really helps people to reflect on where they've come from as well. And that's important as well. So if they can come back to their home country, realising that it's not the only place in the world, and that they might have learnt something about themselves in their own country as well, I think is really important. And that sort of competency to deal with travel, all those sorts of things, are things that employers are very keen to see.
Cool.
It's a fantastic answer. I'll speak from my own experience. I absolutely, as a student under Nigel for a while now, I was an immigrant into Australia, so I travelled. I had broken that barrier. But for sure, to travel out on your own almost, or to meet Nigel and the team in another country it's quite scary. It can be quite, especially if you're young and 19, 20, 21, it can be quite the step. I think as a politics major, I'm trying not to I'm trying to steer clear from just the book, reciting it here. I think placing oneself in the world or in one's region is massively important. Australians, we're quite far from everyone. We have there's the tyranny of distance. But it's not true. It's a fallacy. We are one nation amongst very many in the Asia Pacific, and we need to understand that we are part of that. We have many neighbours who are welcoming us, and we need to get out there and experience it. And it will feed our studies, and it will help develop our personal lives and careers. You talk about employers liking things. I wouldn't even go that far. I think personalities. I think staying on the individual level, those relationships are vital.
And that's very important, Cole, your statement you just made, and it probably is just so appropriate to end the program now. And thank you very much for both of you to come in on our program, Walailak University Global Program. Certainly, you have contributed a lot to the internationalization of this university. Simply, you are here is already, you have already added to the richness, in for university and in terms of globalizing the place, globalizing education at Walailak University. Thank you very much, Dr. Nigel Chang, and thank you, Cole Brown, for coming in, talking to us. Thank you.
No, great. Thank you very much. It's
Thank you.
fantastic. Yep.